All right, would you like to see a tour of my main screen where I do most of the damage in the market, where I'm trading futures? Because today I would like to give you a tour of my NinjaTrader 8 platform, and then I'll give you a couple little suggestions on how to set up your screen depending on if you're working with a larger screen or a smaller screen. I do trade on a laptop as well, and I'll show you how to set that up. There's probably a lot of detail that I could go into on all these sections, so just let me know if anything isn't clear or if you could really use a lot of tutorial on one section in particular, because each of these little windows I could make an independent video on. So today is going to be more of a tour and a basic setup for NinjaTrader 8, so let's get started. This is my main screen, and it looks like there's a lot going on, but each little block has its purpose and its function. So I'll go through and kind of show you what I'm working with. It looks a little bit extra crazy because I have privacy mode turned on for obvious reasons, but I have everything up where I can at least show you what's going on. So one of my favorite things about NinjaTrader is I can connect a lot of different brokerages and prop firms and data connections and all sorts of things. And NinjaTrader can be my hub. I can trade off of here. I can use a DOM, or I can trade off of a chart. I can also use automations to help me make sure that I get in and out of my trades as expected. Little things from small little trade management brackets all the way up to full-blown automations can all be done in NinjaTrader. And I like that a lot. There are some more beautiful charting platforms, and I do use other tools like that sometimes, but as far as the actual powerhouse, this is it. So this is the main dashboard tab, and this is where you'll have all of the main account information that you want to look at. And you can also customize all of these little columns and have everything exactly how you like it. I like to also have a view, no matter what kind of tab I end up here, that I always have a view on my positions or my orders. I always like to check the orders at the end of the day, make sure I don't have anything pending when I'm logging out. And so this is right there, really easy for me to do that. I also use Replikanto to copy trade. I don't use this every day. I used to use it more. I'll probably go through spells where I use it more again, but I kind of keep it hidden back here where I can go in and switch all the different accounts and leader accounts and follower accounts and cross orders and things real easily, but I don't have to have that open all the time because I can hide it back here behind these charts. This chart is kind of where I want to look at the market at a glance. So this is a comparison chart. I also keep a volume profile chart and just a daily chart, just because I always like to kind of be able to check in on the big picture. I mostly stick to this one when I'm intraday because it's showing me the difference on how the indexes and the VIX are comparing. And then I keep 3 charts. This setup basically gives me a place to trade an ES contract and a NASDAQ contract on a couple of different accounts. And you can use these drop downs and go through and switch to different accounts. But for the most part, I stick to one account at a time, and I will flip around a little bit if it's a really good deal. But I kind of keep this chart on the S&P and this chart on the NASDAQ. I usually use different tabs to switch around to different setups and things really quickly. I do have to really pay attention before I ever hit any buttons or enter any orders to make sure that I have the right account and right instrument. I do make this mistake sometimes, and it can be really bad. So I have gotten really good about always checking this instrument before I go clicking on any order things. Then I kind of have this third chart down here, and I'll flip around doing different things. When I'm streaming, this is the chart you see. I have different tabs down here, and these rotate and change. That is important to note. Like, just because I'm showing you this today, that doesn't mean that this is the exact setup I'm going to be using even a week from now. This is something that evolves over time, and that's okay. You don't want to be messing with it all day, every day. But the whole point of your chart and your indicators is to have something on there that makes it really clear to see the things in particular that you're looking at. So you can see I have my custom indicators on here, the Mo roll and the magic levels and things like that. And I've got the orb wrangler over here. I've added those so that I can see things that I want to see in the market. Otherwise, I keep pretty clean charts. So I have this window open, and then I have a second screen that has some much cleaner charts on it. And that way I can see really at a glance just the actual price action in the candles. And then since I'm using these charts for orders, these have all these different actual levels that I'm watching, so I can really target those with my orders. I need a clean chart still. So if I had room for a clean chart over here, I probably would, but it's on a different screen. So let me go ahead and show you how to set this up. There is a DOM missing from this. I'm going to show you the DOM as well. I have that on a different layout. So one of the nice things about NinjaTrader, other than being able to connect to all of those accounts, is you can have these different workspaces, and you can see I have a few different ones. So I do have a DOM on one of these. This is my super res, is what I call it, just because I have all of these different charts. I'll show you the one that has a DOM on it. We'll go ahead and create that one brand new. That'll be a good opportunity to kind of step through how to set things up. Okay, I have a brand new workspace now, which is basically what it's going to look like when you start up brand new fresh. If when you started up, you saw the window asking you if you wanted to trade live or sim, you're not ready to connect to multiple brokers. So we'll go through that. But whenever you start up fresh or create a new workspace, you're just going to start out with your main dashboard window, and then we'll add on to everything from there. So the first thing that you're really going to need is a connection. And I have a lot of connections here, but the way that you do that is by going into this connection menu and going into configure. If you don't have this because you saw that do you want live or simulation at the beginning, what you need to do is go into tools and then go down to settings. And this is really important. I don't know why this is off by default. This is one of the most important things, or one of the most Googled things. You need to make sure this multi-provider is checked. If you have multi-provider checked, and by the way, that was the main options menu. If you ever need to look for anything, it's probably there. Once you have that checked, you can go into connections. If you didn't have that checked, it'll make you restart. But once you have that checked and have restarted, then you'll be able to go into configure. And in configure, you'll have all of these different options, and you'll need to follow the directions for your broker or your prop firm, but it should be pretty simple. And on their website, if you're adding a Tradeovate account, I'll show you how to do that. So it doesn't say Tradeovate, right? Unless it's kinetic, you might have to connect to it that way. But if you have a Tradeovate login, most of the time you can go ahead and click on NinjaTrader, and you can name this whatever you want. So if this was like, new prop firm that I'm connecting to, I can put that as new prop firm, or if it is your live Ninja brokerage account, you don't have to use the Ninja brokerage. You can use any of these. Look, we've got Schwab. I also connect to Interactive Brokers. But basically, anyone that has a CQG connection, you can connect back to here really, really simply just by kind of logging in here. But if you have a prop firm with a Tradeovate connection, I'm going to pick on that one because that's kind of the most common. You can set that up as NinjaTrader. I don't do connect at startup. That means it's automatically going to connect when you start up NinjaTrader. Because I have multiple connections, I like to pick which ones I'm going to use that day. And then you can decide to go ahead and leave your username and password in here. I don't have it ask to do that, to enter that every time, because the prop firms all have different passwords and things that I don't want to remember. I do find that handy. So that's how you set all those up. And then once you have those set up, you can really quickly disconnect, and it'll turn that connection off, and those accounts will go away. You can reconnect. And it's really, really simple to just connect and reconnect to all of these different accounts. And then I have all these tabs open here. I'm not going to go through all of them. They're pretty self-explanatory. Strategies I'll pick on for a minute because this is the automated trading strategies, and you can actually connect, or you can actually create these yourself. So you can go to New and then Strategy Builder. And this is what I'm talking about on the live sometimes when I'm telling y'all that you can literally go into NinjaTrader and start building your own trading strategy. Okay, here it is, where this is literally just a wizard that you can step through, and you're going to give it default properties, what the inputs are, and then what the conditions are. That would be like if we have a 9 and 20 EMA cross, you can put that as a condition, and then you set your stops and targets and finish it. You can compile it and start using it as the strategy builder has created it, or you can view the code and start messing with it, maybe in ChatGPT or something. You can unlock the code and start editing it yourself. So that's a really fun tool. That's how I started with these. I'm now doing them all manually, but you know, that's something that I learned over time, and that's part of how I used it. And then, you know, positions, executions, log. I'm not going to go through all that. I just have a second version of my accounts view. It's not really important. So if you want to start adding, you know, the things like I was just showing you, that's all in new. So here's all of our different options. And one of the most obvious things we're going to want is a chart. Now, I know if you just like, where's my chart? It's just stepping you through. It's going to make you pick something first. I'll pick ES. And then it's going to have some different options here. It's probably not going to start on volumetric, but I just want to point you here. There's different tick and minute and all this stuff. I was probably messing with a volumetric chart, but for the most part, you'll want to make sure that's on minute unless you're going to mess with any of these other things. They do have Heikinashi and Renko and all sorts of things. So this is going to be the data that we're using for the chart. So we can I'll just start it on the 1 minute because that's really easy to change. And that was the default here. This is how many days back it's going to load. So if you want to see a lot of days back, you'll want to tell it that. Otherwise, it's going to load that every single time, which can bog your system down. So you don't want to have that super crazy. If you don't want a candlestick chart, you can do line charts and all of that kind of thing. I ended up turning these down. If you don't like having your charts really extra cluttered, you might want to turn off the trade execution plots. But then after you have the settings the way you like it, you can hit OK, and we have a chart. I have already set up a default chart view that's including a couple of indicators. So that's what we're seeing here. Once you do that, there's these templates, and I can go in here and load or save a template. So if I want to load a different template, I can do all that in here. This is a pretty good one. I'm just going to leave this one right here for now. We can go through some of the basics here. Like this one's for the chart trader. This is really handy if you want to be able to trade on your chart like I do. You can have all of your accounts pulled up here. And these are the different ATM strategies. This is your brackets. So you can come in here and create a different strategy bracket with different targets and different stop losses for each of those little sub orders. And this is really, really nice for creating some advanced brackets. These are pretty self-explanatory: buy market, sell market, all that kind of thing. You can also right click where you might want to put an order. You've probably seen me do that live before too. You can add these strategies to an actual chart. I'm going to save that for another video, but that would be in, this little clipboard guy here. Okay, and then if you want to add indicators, it's this little chart guy. And so that's what I was saying. Since I have a template saved, it automatically loaded these different things here. Once you have a chart, you can also just come down here and right click, and then you can either duplicate it into a new tab or a new window. So I'm going to do a new tab right now. I like to kind of have, you know, my ES in one section and my NASDAQ in another section. So this way, maybe I could put this one on MES. Maybe I want to put this one on a 5 minute. And let's go change the indicators. So if you want to come into this little indicator guy, I'll put this over here so you can really look at it. These are the ones that are automatically loaded on my default chart. That's just the way I did that one day. But if we want to add something else, we can come in here. Maybe when we want to put magic levels on this chart, you know, we can go ahead and we have all these different options, are all real easy to get there. Okay, there's our chart with the indicators. Once you get one that you like, this is where all those nice templates come in. You can come into templates and you can save, or you can set this as your default if you want that to be your default. Okay, so let's do this again, but this time we'll duplicate it into a new window. So here is our next window. We can make this one into our NASDAQ chart. So if I want to go look for that template, I can go into template and load a template. Here's some different templates that I have. So I'm pretty sure that that one was, let's skip through my guessing. I get it back on the default one here. So these, I can have an ES and a NASDAQ chart that kind of match here. I'm going to show you another way we can do this. We can just add a tab and then it'll bring it back up to the data series window. So let's say we want to do a volumetric. I'll switch this over to ES. I know we've been talking about the order flow and the volumetric charts. This is how I get those. So instead of minute, I can go over to volumetric, hit OK. And now this is starting to look kind of familiar, huh? Now this has these other indicators on it, but fortunately I have a template already saved, so I can go load my volumetric template. Ta-da! I already have that saved. So that's a really nice thing about NinjaTrader, as long as you remember to actually save your templates once you get them the way you like it. So don't forget about that. Now, you saw I had that other order window over here. You can go through that and you can go to New and then Account Data, and it'll look like all of this. Another way that you can do that, if you want one of these windows, let's get the Positions tab. We can right click on the Positions tab and put duplicate a new window. And now we have another one that we can just drag over here and size the way we want it. Let's say maybe this one doesn't need the Replikanto on there. We can size that up that way. Okay, now I could keep going and building these other things out over here, but first, I know that not everyone has a big high resolution screen like I do, so I'm going to show you how I do this on a smaller monitor. So instead of having these right next to each other, I end up putting one chart over here, and then I have one chart in this area, and I usually squeeze this up so that these charts have a little bit more space. I like them to have a little bit of breathing room. I'll put this on something more normal over here. Now I have room for a DOM, so we can go in here. It's called the SuperDOM because it's NinjaTrader, and we can't just have a regular DOM. And then you can come in here and put the DOM in the middle. Just resize them a little bit there to make things make a little bit more sense. You do have these colors up here, so if you wanted to have this DOM only tied to one chart, the chart on the left or the chart on the right or whatever, you can set these little colors. So you can see this one up here. You can link it to an instrument. Let's link this one to red. So if I want to link it to this chart, I can link, well, this is an interview link. So check that out. This one is the instrument link. This first one here was the interval link. So if I want to link this chart and this chart to always be on the same interval, I can do it that way. But if I want this DOM to always be linked to the instrument of a chart, then I can link the instrument to red here. So I have this chart on ES, the DOM's on ES. Let's put it on micro gold. So now the chart is on micro gold and the DOM has switched over to micro gold. You can see how this is really handy if you want to be able to trade a few different things really quickly. And this doesn't take up a ton of space. I started this layout because it was most like the Tradeovate layout that I was pretty familiar with. So you can see how this kind of thing happened. I'm going to turn these off because I don't want to leave it that way and get rid of this. And now I'll show you kind of this other layout that I was working with earlier, where I have a little bit more breathing room so I can have things spaced out a little bit better. And so here's the way I tend to do this. I have these two different charts. I can keep this chart on one account and I can keep this chart on a different account. When I'm trading multiple accounts, I can either use my trade copier or swap through this menu and always double check and make sure I'm on the instrument that I like. Sometimes I'll have a really good setup that I want to take on a third account. And so instead of trying to flip around so much, I keep kind of a third little baby chart over here. And this worked out well because I like to have that kind of bigger view of the market. So I have a space for that now, but I have this third chart over here that I can work with. If you'll notice, this looks pretty much about the size as the charts that I usually stream with, because this is the chart that I usually stream with. So if I load this, you'll see this is the orb. This will start to kind of look familiar. Let's get off the 1 minute. We can't look at an orb in the afternoon on a 1 minute chart. Okay. Oh, we still have the interval link there. Okay. That's why I was trying to turn that off so it wouldn't mess us up later. Still got me. So I can keep, an orb chart here, and then maybe I want to have another one over here, and this chart can be, my normal volume profile chart. And I can keep all of these different charts and then just really quick show y'all different things, or, look at the market in a different way, all tied to whatever account. So I'm going to point this out. Whatever account is selected in the chart, the chart tab that you're in. Let's go to we'll go to this one. This is my regular Barbie main account. So if I have this selected on the first tab and I go to the next tab, I have chart trader off, but I can come over here and go to the settings to turn it on. And then I have it here. you see it's linked to that same account. So now if I change back over to the paper account, it's paper on this tab here. It's also going to be paper on that tab there. So that's another thing that's good to pay attention to. So obviously I'm a big fan of being lazy and creating my charts that way. Let's create this daily chart up here. I'll kind of show you how I create those. So if I have a chart like this, first thing I want to do is probably turn the indicators off of it. So we'll just take all of this off. And then if I'm going to watch a comparison chart, I need to add multiple data series. So I told y'all at the beginning I wasn't going to go off on too many tangents, and then I tried to go off on a tangent on the line chart. So I'm just going to tell you that I added 3 data series to this chart and made them into lines, and we can cover this in another video. I now have this saved as a template, so I can just load it. All right. I also like to have a daily chart here, so I'll go to ES and we'll make this a 1 day. Sounds good. And make it a candlestick chart. And then because I have this one saved also, this is what I'm telling you, don't forget to save your templates, because then every time that you're creating a new workspace or anything, you can go ahead and load everything exactly the way you like it. So here's this one all nice and pretty with just the little settings that I like. So that's how I create this layout here. And then of course you can go nuts adding all of the different indicators and everything and really dive in and customize all of these tabs. I didn't really bring this up earlier, but when you come in here, you can go in to the properties of each tab. I'm in the accounts tab now, but this is for every single tab. You can go into the properties and check all of these different columns or uncheck them. You don't have to display the stuff that comes with it, and there's some other handy stuff in here. Some of this doesn't work as well as you think it's going to. Sometimes the cumulative profits get a little wonky, and sometimes the trailing drawdown is really weird on the props. But for the most part, the information's pretty good. It varies a little bit by connection. And here I am back home with all of my mess, with all of these little indicators that I like. But I encourage you to play with things a little bit. Don't be afraid to really dive into all of the different settings. And of course, I'm here if you want to ask me any of the questions. I almost forgot you one last thing as I was switching over. Don't forget to save your workspace every time that you are messing with it. And then every single time I log out, I check my workspace and I check and make sure that I don't have any open positions or orders when I'm exiting, because that can be kind of scary. Always check that orders. Make sure you don't have anything that you forgot about throughout the day. I know we get excited. All right. I think we can do a whole video on charts. I think we can do a whole video on just setting up my line chart. We can definitely do a whole video on volumetric charts. So just let me know what you're interested in, or if anything doesn't make sense. To an extent, I've kind of forgotten what I know, so help me out with that. Of course, you can join me in the Discord, the Trading Ranch. Most of it's completely free. I think you're going to love it. Check out bullbarbie.com. We've got a schedule of live events and all kinds of fun stuff that we have going on, along with the indicators and tools, some of which you'll see right here. And I hope you'll join me again soon. Don't forget to like and subscribe. And until next time, love you. Bye.